Hello and welcome to the Royal Road School of Carmelite Prayer. A link to the Praying with Teresa of Avila website has been provided below to enable you to find the catalog of offerings on this channel and the notes of today's presentation. The Fifth Dwelling Places, Chapter 4, a summary, Interior Castle, Saint Teresa of Avila. Continues on the same subject, explaining further this kind of prayer. Tells how important it is to walk with care, because the devil himself uses a great deal of care in trying to make one turn back from what was begun. May it please God that I have the time to write of this. About 5 months have passed since I began, and because my head is in no condition to read over what I've written, everything will have to continue without order, and perhaps some things will be said twice. Since this work is for my sisters, the disorder won't matter much. Nonetheless, I want to explain more to you about what kind of I think this prayer of union is. To do so, let me draw a comparison. You've often heard that God espouses souls spiritually. Though the comparison may be coarse, I cannot find another comparison that would be better to explain what I mean than the sacrament of marriage. This spiritual espousal is different in kind from marriage, for there is never anything that is not spiritual. The spiritual joys the Lord gives when compared to the delights married people must experience, are 1,000 leagues distant. For it is all a matter of love united with love, and the actions of love are most pure and so extremely delicate and gentle that there is no way of explaining them, but the Lord knows how to make them very clearly felt. It seems to me that the prayer of union does not yet reach the stage of spiritual betrothal. Here below, when two people are to be engaged, there is discussion about whether they are alike, whether they love each other and should meet to become more satisfied with each other. So too in the case of this union with God. The agreement has been made, the soul is well informed about the goodness of her spouse, and is determined to do his will in everything, to make him happy. As a result, he grants this mercy, for he desired her to know him more, and that they might meet together, as they say, and be united. We can say that union is like this, for it passes in a very short time. In it, the soul sees secretly who this spouse is that she is going to accept. Through the work of the senses and the faculties, she couldn't, in 1,000 years, understand what she understands here in the shortest time. From that meeting alone, he leaves her more worthy for the joining of hands. The soul is left so much in love that it does all it can to avoid disturbing this divine betrothal. But if it is careless and places its affection in something other than him, it loses everything. For this reason, I ask Christian souls whom the Lord has brought to these boundaries not to grow careless, but to withdraw from occasions. Even in this state, the soul is not as strong as it will be after the betrothal is made. The betrothal belongs to the next dwelling place, the 6th mansions. This present communication amounts to no more than a meeting. The devil, seeing the soul entirely surrendered to the spouse, doesn't dare do much because he fears it. I tell you, daughters, that I have known persons who had ascended high and had reached this divine union, and who were then turned back and won over by the devil. In losing one soul of this kind, not only one soul is lost, but a multitude. Look at the multitude of souls God draws to himself by means of one. He is to be greatly praised for those the devil must have lost through Saint Dominic, Saint Francis, and those he now loses through Father Ignatius, the founder of the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits. How would this have come about if they hadn't made the effort not to lose, through their own fault, so divine an espousal? Oh, my daughters, how prepared the Lord is to grant us favors now, as in the past. And in part, he even is more in need now that we desire to receive them, for there are fewer who care about his honor than there were then. There is an extraordinary amount of prudence we use not to lose our rights. May the Lord in his mercy enlighten us so we do not fall into similar darknesses. You will be in doubt concerning two things. First, if the soul is ready to do the will of God, how can it be deceived since it only wants to do his will in all? Second, what are the ways in which the devil can enter so dangerously that your soul goes astray? For you are so withdrawn from the world and in the company of angels, and have no other desire but to serve God and please him in everything. With those in the midst of worldly occasions, such a turn backward would not be surprising. But Judas was in the company of the apostles, and conversing always with God himself, and listening to his words. I understand that there is no security in these things. In answer to the first, I say that if this soul were always attached to God's will, it is clear that it would not go astray. But the devil comes along with skillful deception. Little by little, he darkens the intellect, cools the will's ardor, and makes self-love grow until he succeeds in withdrawing the soul from the will of God and brings it to his own. Thus, we have an answer to the second doubt. There is no desert so withdrawn that he fails to go there. Perhaps the Lord permits this so as to observe the behavior of that soul. He wishes to set up as a light for others. If there is going to be a downfall, it's better it happen in the beginning rather than later, when it would be harmful to many. The most effective diligence on our part is the following. First, we must always ask God in prayer to sustain us. Remind ourselves often that he abandons us. If he abandons us, we will soon end in the abyss. And never trust ourselves. Then we should walk with special care and attention, observing how we are proceeding in the practice of virtue, especially in love for one another, in the desire to be considered least among the sisters, and in the performance of ordinary tasks. If we pay attention and ask the Lord to enlighten us, we will soon see the gain or the loss. Don't think that a soul that comes so close to God is allowed to lose him so quickly, or that the devil has an easy task. His Majesty would regret the loss of this soul so much that he gives it in many ways 1,000 interior warnings so that the harm will not be hidden from it. In conclusion, we must always strive to advance. If we don't advance, let us walk with great fear. Love is never idle. A failure to grow would be a very bad sign. A soul that has tried to be the betrothed of God Himself, that is now intimate with His Majesty, must not go to sleep. To see what He does with those He now considers His betrothed, we shall begin to speak of the 6 dwelling places. You will be able to see just how little we can do to serve, suffer, and accomplish so as to dispose ourselves for such great favors. He perhaps ordained that I write so that we forget our little earthly joys and put our eyes on the reward in order to see just how immeasurable is His mercy. With eyes fixed on His greatness, we will move about enkindled in His love. May He be pleased that I managed to explain something about these very difficult things, and that what I say be for your benefit. Through His favors, we can understand something of what He will give us in heaven. If there were no danger of losing or of offending Him, it would be easy to endure life until the end of the world. May it please His Majesty that we merit to render Him some service, without as many faults, even in good works. Amen.